fun. This is one of my favorite shows now.
Get
because
out.
I work out to you guys.
Nice.
Yeah, because it comes on that early.
Jenna, that's your,
yes.
that's your,
now you're on my
your
corner.
jam.
We will talk about that after.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because if you watch the show, you know that my partner, Chris Carter, likes to present himself in a certain light. Walter Payton, Man of the Year, Hall of Famer, just Mr. Professional.
You do know that's my dear friend.
I understand. It's my dear friend as well.
That.
I'm just asking you, you know Chris Carter, the player. You know what it's like to go up against Chris Carter.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite Chris Carter story that he wouldn't have told us about going up against him?
Chris was a dog. Now, it's probably two different occurrences. Once I played against Chris in Minnesota. Chris ain't have a lot of help. And I was with San Francisco. We got the better half of Chris. Now, the next time I had to deal with Chris, Chris had some help. And it wasn't as pleasant. It wasn't as pleasant at all.
Boss.
Yeah. And Jake Reed. It was ridiculous. Now, we ran a coverage called Double-Double. We would double this guy, and single this guy, whichever one we chose. And I remember I never go in the slot. I hated playing the slot. I got caught up in the slot, and I had to pull a hamstring, and I had to deal with Chris. And I was hoping, please, I hope he don't know my hamstring is gone. And, you know, Chris will hop and set you, and, let's move the chains. Let's move the chains. That's who he was.
And I beat Prime one time. He said, you had me on that one, dog.
You had me on that one, dog.
You don't know if the quarterback would have thrown it. I still might have picked it. I was like, leave me alone. Prime is not a guy that's going to talk a lot to you. Like, he'll shake your hand before the game, and then after the game, you say on the prayer. That's the next time he's going to
That's the misconception. I never talked. I never talked to my opponent. I would never degrade him, badmouth him. I would never say anything negative to my opponent. Never in my life.
So that's where, right before the segment started, Chris said that I compared Jalen to you. And I was like, no. I wasn't saying the player. I wasn't saying he's at that level. But when we were talking about Jalen doing those interviews, being outspoken, Chris said, who else does this? Who else has done it? And I said,
and been successful.
And been successful. And I said, man, Deion was pretty outspoken.
Well, I talked about me.
Yes,
that's the difference of what you do.
Me and my money.
That's right.
That's what Prime talks about.
I talked about me. I never talked about my opponent, the team I was playing, the quarterbacks, or whatsoever. I've never done that in my life.
How come?
Because I had too much respect for him and his hustle and his grind and where he came from to really down him and degrade him. He's a professional athlete. Why would I degrade someone that's entitled a professional?
And Prime was one of the original guys that, yeah, this is a sport. But, man, this is about making money.
It's a business.
This is about entertaining people. And I'm not going to try to do anything to hurt your shine, even though I might know some things. And Prime also was one of the first guys to start breaking down video. Like, he had a teammate that told me. I said, man, what does he do to get ready? He said, man, he gets all your routes locked in. He's getting dressed. He got his uniform all laid out, the socks and everything. And he's watching every route that you run and thinking about, I'm going to look pretty, but I'm also going to be studying the opponent. So there's two misconceptions about prime time, which I believe, and I always say this on TV. I've been on TV 16 straight years. The best DB to ever play. Two misconceptions. That he talked trash, and the other one was that, man, that he wasn't physical.
True.
All those are myths. Those are myths. You can't play bump and run and not be physical.
Right.
All right, so we brought up Jalen Ramsey. Let's start there. Ramsey had a lot.
Same defense team up front. They're not provoking the turnovers as well. I love what Jalen brings to the table. I also had to check Jalen last week. I say, no fun when the rabbit got the gun, huh?
Yeah.
See, you can't be this. And then when you lose it, you want to be that.
Right.
Or you got to stand up at your locker, baby, and deliver. That's what a leader is. That's what this man was. Win or lose, you got to sit up here and sing the same song.
Because he got to his locker last year and he answered last week, and he answered every question with, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But yet he had a lot to say. But so you don't have a problem with him calling out other players at the beginning of the year?
That's who he is. I don't have a problem with someone being who they are.
Now, Prime, I know
that's not who I am.
Okay,
but that's who he is.
Okay, Prime, I know that's not you, but I know Jalen. Jalen's like one of your kids.
Yes, he is.
What do you tell Jalen? Because you can't change that. How do you tell him to? With these kids.
Yeah, Jalen is...
No Hall of Famer has more connections to current players and are involved in their day-to-day life than DEION Sanders. There's no player that has a Rolodex of high school, college, and professional players like DEION Sanders. What are you telling Jalen?
First of all, I tell Jalen why. I want to know why. Because because. And this is not the way. Sometimes we start living for people and not being who we really are. Sometimes we want to please people and we want the hand claps of people, and we negate who we really are and how we were raised because everybody's clapping now. And that's not the necessary, and that's not protocol to where he wants to go. Because the social media could provoke us to do some crazy things in this country just for the likes.
Sure.
Do you think some of that is Chris made a big point about the transformation of Odell Beckham from when he was drafted, and I mean, Chris just did a side-by-side picture of it,
yes.
just visually, when he was drafted to where he is now.
That's a good one.
Do you think some of that is the amazing instantaneous fame that came with the one spectacular play to go along with a really great first 2.5, 3 seasons in the league, really first 3 seasons before the injury, that all of a sudden it was almost too much too quick for him?
You could say that. But at some point, first of all, we all like to be liked. We all like to be appreciated. We all like to be loved. And now social media gives you that instantaneously. So you could be ignorant, you could be adolescent, and you still getting that. So who's going to check you? Tell me one person in that locker room is going to check him. Who's in that locker room is going to check Jalen? Who's going to do that? These guys are propelled to be the leaders of those teams, of those communities, of this generation, man, and it ain't no checking them. So that's a lonely place.
Was there someone to check you?
Yes. Guy name was Jamie Dukes, first of all. He went to Florida State with me.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, he's my big brother. He was at Florida State with me, and we went to Atlanta together.
Why is that important, Prime? Even because, man, Prime was awesome. Like, from college, spectacular. Why was that important to have someone like Dukes in your life? And I just believe to this day, you still got people like Jamie Dukes in your life.
Just got off the phone last week in Atlanta. I mean, man, you got to have a compass, man, because sometimes we get off. We get misguided, man. And I can't see everything. I can't do it. I can't see everything I need to see at this age and stage of my life. And it's very important for these guys like Odell and some of these guys, Pat P, some of these guys all amongst the league. And I reach out to them all the time. Deshaun. I reach out to Deshaun and say,
Deshaun
hey,
Jackson.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, man, look, man, this. Do you see Tom Brady in the middle of the field at the end of the game exchanging jerseys?
Nope.
So why are you doing it? You at a whole nother level, my man. This ain't it. You don't go to battle with another man, then you sit up there and switch jerseys at the end of the battle. After he just did me, I did him. You think we gonna sit in the middle field and change jerseys?
Each other and everything.
That was not gonna happen in our generation.
No.
That was not gonna happen. I can't stand that.
And that's across all sports at this point,
Yeah, I can't stand it.
All right, Dan, let's talk about your former team, the Cowboys. It's a little bit of a head-scratcher what's been going on with them. We tried to figure out, is it Dak? Is it Dak's lack of offensive weapons? So now they go out and they get Amari Cooper. How much is that going to help Dak Prescott, and where can this team go now?
Getting Amari Cooper is a consent that I was wrong in the draft, that I didn't get Calvin Ridley. Let's just tackle that. That's number one. I was wrong.
I made a mistake.
I made a mistake, so I'm going to tone to it. Now, at the same time, when you got Ridley, Dez probably threw his phone because he understood that was it. It's over in Dallas. There ain't no coming back. Number two, Calvin Ridley hadn't. Amari Cooper hadn't been a 1 in the last 2 years. And you gave up a 1. No one else was offering a 1. And you give up a 1? That wasn't the ticket. It helps Dak. It helps this offense. But is it the long-term solution if he can play like a 1? Yes. But if he can't, no.
Prime, there seems to be, now I know Amari. Amari's totally different than most of the guys that we know who are ones. I just believe that sometimes the talent is not developed, and the lack of him going to Alabama from South Florida, he wanted coach.
Right.
And we thought that he was going to be on that arc with Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnston, because he had that non-diva mentality. Help us try to explain, because I try to tell Nick, I don't believe they coached him up. I believe also from a concentration standpoint, he doesn't have that. He hasn't matured as a receiver. That's why he has the drops and have good hands. What have you seen from Amari the last year and a half?
Inconsistency, no confidence. Really, they don't understand who he is, I feel like, and how to use him, because there's no way. You got a bona fide quarterback. You got a dog. You have that intangible. You have an offense that can get the ball down the field, and you're not getting it done. And it's not like you're out there by yourself. They've always had help with him, so they always had a Robin. Every Batman need a Robin. And they've always had that. The problem is he started being Robin and not Batman.
So what do you make of what's happening in Oakland? You clearly like Derek Carr from your comments.
Love him.
They're the worst team. There's fewest wins in football.
They're going to get off here.
This offseason, like, what do you make of what Gruden's done since he's gone there?
Gruden has jumped back in the game, and he thought the game was